What's up, guys? It's your boys from the Knee on Belly podcast, Nate and John. We decided in honor of the UFC Topps Chrome, we would come in and do our rookie tier list for the true rookies this year. Pretty self-explanatory board here. Obviously, to the moon. So we're talking like the people that we think are probably going to have the most value out of these true rookies. Then you have the ceiling looks high. Self-explanatory, exactly what it means. Could be a sneaky hold. So these are maybe people that have shown like some flashes. It's too early to tell. Some of these fighters have only had like 2 or 3 fights in the UFC and they might be a little mixed. Next category, pray someone PCs. Now this is like, we're looking rough here, boys. This is the one where you're probably looking just literally that. You're just hoping somebody PCs this fighter. And then the last category, why are you in here? This is where you don't. These are this last tier is reserved for the like kind of head scratchers in here where we're literally like looking at tops like why would you put this fighter in here?
And that's like a card opinion, not necessarily on the fighter, but in sense of the set. This
is all card opinion. This is more geared towards the hobby. Now, in terms of this list, we tried to base it more off the fighting. And again, this is just our opinion. So that's important to remember as well. A lot of people will disagree with these rankings that are other, fellow UFC fans. And if you're somebody and you disagree, let us know where maybe you think maybe somebody should have been higher, maybe somebody should have been lower. But at the end of the day, aside from the actual names of the categories, this is just truly a best, top tier to who we think, this is who you, why are you in here? This is just not who you want to be pulling.
When you open up your packs, if you're in the red, orange, yellowish, you're like, okay, I got some good stuff. Yeah. You get down to green and it's, she got some stuff that you don't really need. So
let's jump into it. I'm just going to grab this one right here in the middle, John. And I think that's Bruno Ferriera, guy that's 2-1 in the UFC right now. Came out and beat RoboCop in his first fight, which was a statement win. Lost his next fight to a guy who could be a future, we were just talking about him on our podcast. We do a weekly MMA podcast, by the way. We don't miss a fight. So that's another reason we felt almost a responsibility to do this for people. But Bruno's a banger, man. This could be one where I think maybe a little too early to tell, but I think he's more of a sneaky hold potentially.
I think with that type of power that he has, when we talk about people collecting people, sometimes it is about being an exciting fighter. His nickname is the Hulk, and he's built like it.
Let's move next right here behind John is Damon Blackshear. Damon's a guy I was pretty high on even before he got into the UFC.
He's 2-2-1. He had to draw his debut on short notice.
That's right.
Lost a decision. Then he got 2 finishes in a row, and then he just lost to Mario Bautista. And then the Mario Bautista fight, remember, he did that in a week's notice, so you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt.
No, this is tough because, this could be like your ideal, like maybe it's too early to tell or no.
It's interesting too because he doesn't have like a, I kind of looked at, I know we're talking about fighting, but when you're talking about popularity, that's part of it. He only has like 10K followers on Instagram, not very known, but he is exciting, especially for that division. So
I think he might be another one to maybe throw in the sneaky hold.
I mean, because if he would have beat Mario Bautista on a week's notice after the 2 wins in a row, we're probably putting him closer to the orange and red. So
if he would have beat Mario Bautista, you're definitely looking really high. Next up, John, we are going to move to Brad Katona. Brad might be one of the more interesting rookies kind of in this checklist. He's not only had 2 runs in the UFC, but he's also the only fighter to ever win the Ultimate Fighter twice. Now trains with Conor McGregor at SBG, if I'm not mistaken. That is a bit of a bump. Did lose his last fight, and I think that was one a lot of us thought he was going to win. I don't want to write him off now. I am interested in the collectability long term for a guy that's the only fighter to win the Ultimate Fighter twice, and the circumstances behind that being so weird, like the whole like recall rookies versus vets. I don't know if that's something that they'll ever do again, or if somebody will ever have that opportunity again. Right. So it's like, is there going to be collectability, or is he just going to be like a really cool trivia question one day?
Right. I would put maybe pray someone PCs. I'm
a little higher. I'm more. Maybe could be a sneaky hold because of the collectability, but in terms of like if I'm just looking at this second run in the UFC, I almost feel like he may be it's too early to tell.
Because there's only 3 losses come in the UFC, and 2 of those were in that first stint.
And when he got cut, he didn't lose a fight up until the one he just lost. He went on a nice run. I'm kind of more, it's too early to tell, possibly.
I could be okay with that, yeah.
If he bounces back from this win and goes on a nice run, again, the attachment to McGregor.
He's always a part of fun fights, too. It's not like he's a boring fighter.
Moving on next, John, to Choi Seung Woo. If you pull a big hard card here, I think it's pretty brutal. It's going to kind of hurt. He's 31 years of age. And to have a losing record in the UFC, and you'll probably hear us mention this for some of the other fighters as well, it's just tough to bounce back at that age. I do wish the best for his fighting career, but in terms of the hobby, I just don't see it. And I have to be honest, John, this is one that makes me wonder, why did the Topps even choose to put him in here? I don't know if you agree. We can move him.
There's certain fighters that we're just not sure why they're not in here.
Yeah.
And when you see certain fighters who get in here, it's like, well, you easily could have swapped him out for A, B, and C.
And that's more why we have this category and why it's titled that. Again, like John said, it's nothing against the fighter or their career. It's just more like from a collectability or a hobby standpoint, like Topps, holler at us.
Well, and how much
gave you 7 better people to put in this checklist?
And how much of a rookie can you be with 9 fights in the UFC? That's crazy.
No, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more.
I don't know. We'll be tentative. We'll leave it right there.
Okay. Yeah, we can move any of these, because the thing is our standards may change, and like we may put somebody somewhere that's a good fit and then be like, well, if that person's here, that person can't be. So these can move as we go.
Right.
So it's important to watch till the end. Wink, wink. Next here, John, we have Melquizael Costa. I think Melky is one of those ones I could see kind of developing a cult following just because he has that fun style. He's got the hair, the look, right?
Right. I would lean praise someone PCs only because he could be a loss away from being cut.
Yeah.
When you get to 2-3 losses, it gets really tough, and especially when there's so much good young talent coming in.
Alrighty. Next up, John, Elves Brener. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty high on this guy.
Yeah.
He's 3-0 so far in the UFC, and in his second fight, beat Guram Kutateladze in a crazy comeback win. For reference, Guram, I looked it up, was a minus 700 favorite in that fight, and Brener was a plus 500 dog. So that's how crazy that win was for Elves Brener. I have no problem saying the ceiling looks high here for Brener, and he has a super tough matchup coming up against Mikdebek Olabai at UFC 301. Odobai, another guy I'm super high on, should have been in this checklist. But if Brener beats him, I might send Brener to the moon at that point.
And I think that, being part of a big pay-per-view like 301, like not all these guys are getting their next fights on pay-per-view. Yeah. Some of them are still fight night level. And then like you said, having 3 wins, and if you get a 4th, it just puts them in a really good spot and gives them a lot more value.
Next up I'm going to grab here is Jake Hadley, John. I'm just so unsure of Hadley, man. This is a tough one. He's sitting at 2-2 right now in the promotion, but I think he's good on the mic. He's got great charisma.
Sweet nickname.
Yeah, the
White Kong.
Yeah, the White Kong. So I have a feeling there will be some Hadley PCers out there, and I think for now, just hope somebody PCs him.
Yeah, and he kind of has, and we'll have some other people in this where it's like, you have like, you're good on the mic, a funny nickname, you have a character, right? And then you do have some wins, or you do have something else you're offering as well.
Next up, Inoue Mizuki. Mizuki's a great striker, which I think can go a long way in the female division. Maybe Mizuki is a sneaky hold. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
too early to tell or sneaky hold?
I think, I would say too early to tell, but there's also the aspect of those divisions don't have a lot of contenders, so you get 3 or 4 wins and you push yourself up. I would be okay with sneaky hold, but too early to tell is the lowest I would go for sure.
Let's put Inoue in could be a sneaky hold for now, because like I said, I like that experience there fighting somebody like Amanda Limoges. That's pretty impressive. Oh boy, John. Next up, Jamie Pickett. He's going. We don't even need to talk about it. Why are you in here? Jamie Pickett, for those that don't know, is not even in the UFC at the time of this recording. Again, people find their way back. Look at Brad Katona.
Yeah.
You can find your way back in the UFC, but at the moment of this recording, he has been cut from the UFC. He was cut before this product came out. Now, I do understand the aspect of these cards were probably printed and made long ago. So I understand that. But you want to talk about Topps doing a buyback. I think Topps, if somebody ends up in your product who's cut from the UFC, because to be honest, even if these cards were made 6 months ago, like printed, packed, shipped, everything, Jamie Pickett should not have been in that checklist.
Not as a rookie, especially.
You have to, I mean, he's like 30, high 30s, mid 30s. Didn't have a winning record in the UFC. So shouldn't really have been in it to begin with. And I think if somebody gets cut before the product comes out, Topps, do the right thing.
Yeah,
do
please.
a buyback. I mean, something, they're doing the buyback for Pereira, Jamal Hill, which I know the whole UFC 300, that's like actually a big deal. But to me, this is one where like it's almost not even. Think about the poor. That's going to pull a 1-of-1 Jamie Pickett. Like, that hurts.
Just to give a little context to people who don't know, like, for a hobby box, you're paying between $250 and $300.
Yeah, and if that's your hit.
You're not only you're getting a guy who's no longer in the UFC, but even if he was still in the UFC, he would still probably be there because he doesn't have a winning record. He doesn't have. His claim to fame is I said yes to everybody but Alex Pereira.
Yeah, fair enough. And again, this has nothing to do with Jamie Pickett as a fighter, as a person. It's just in terms of the hobby, collectability. For a guy that's not even in the UFC, it's just not going to be there long term.
Especially when you see the people who didn't make it that, we're going to talk about later. Like, it puts these guys at the bottom a lot into perspective, like I said.
Next up, John, Junior Tafa. Boy, I'm thinking this is Pray Someone PCs. I think he's bang on that.
What he does have going for him is he's part of a lineage of an area. When we talk about New Zealand, Australia, with the Mark Hunts tied to Avasa. Yeah. His brother, Justin, he has knockout power, but the results just aren't there. No, so unless you're just a huge... that style of fighting fan, you're probably not going to be too excited to pull him. Yeah, that's not. Junior Tafa is not who you're looking for in this checklist. This is going to be probably a bit of a controversial one. Next up, Manel Kape, John. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of people would probably think Manel Kape bang on to the moon, send him to the top. The ceiling looks high. And here's why. Manel Kape, we talked about it on our podcast. He's actually had more canceled fights than fights in the UFC. It's not all by his doing, but he has had a lot of weight misses as well. I think, two or three since being in the UFC. And his last fight was one of them. Right. In his last fight. Like grossly missed, like almost 5 pounds. And if he wins that fight, very winnable fight, I think we were all going to pick him for that fight. He would have been fighting for a title next. That's how good Manel Kape is and how close. And I do think Manel Kape is championship material and caliber, but can he make the weight? Can he stay healthy? Those are the things that kind of worry me long term, because those are the things that I think is the only thing preventing him from being a champ. So for that reason, I don't say to the moon. Again, that might be controversial. I say more the ceiling looks high. Yeah, I could agree with that. I think the weight cuts are a little bit nerving. I did see he has almost 100K followers on Instagram, so people are popular. Into him. He has good mic skills, love him or hate him, because he says some controversial stuff, but he gets people's attention, so you look for him when he's on a card. I would like to see what happens in this next fight before I put him on the moon. I just noticed, by the way, that John is over the bottom row, so I'm going to pull him down at this time. I apologize. Next up, John, Luana Carolina. Has a winning record in the UFC, so I don't think it's crazy for her to be in here. So I don't want to put her at the bottom, but outside of someone PCing her, I just don't see much value in terms of the hobby. Maybe if you think it's too early to tell, that could be one, because she does have a winning record. So it's like she has a win over Lupi Godinez, which is a good win because she's a popular fighter. She has to be more consistent, man. If she could rattle off 2 or 3 wins in a row, I think she, like I said, with the women's divisions, if you can get some wins in a row, you really up your stock pretty quickly. I'm already thinking about a first edit, like looking at Hadley. I almost feel like putting him in It's Too Early to Tell, like to be 2-2, and it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like he's nearly as bad off necessarily as far as he's a 25 value wise. I feel like if Luana's in there, Hadley should be in there too. I can get with that. Next up, and here we go, John. Get in the rocket ship. Diego Lopes. We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship. This guy's going to the moon. One of the more, I'll say, impressive UFC debut performances. Came in and faced a guy named Movsar Evloev, who is a monster. Movsar, there's a good case he could fight for the title, if not this year, early next year. And gave him all he could handle. Gave him all he could handle and then some. Came close to actually finishing him.
and it was on short notice. Lopes just filled in for him, so he's rattled off two straight,
in a row, 2 finishes,
and just looking unstoppable, man.
Added striking in that last one too, man. He just shows that overall.
Yeah, Diego is one of maybe 2 that you're really looking for in this checklist.
You want to get bangs.
Liquid.
When you start pulling that card down to see the hit, you want to see bangs.
Next up, John, Iasmin Lucindo. And I think Lucindo is a sneaky hold here. She's 2-1 so far, and her last 2 wins were pretty good over Polyana and Brogan Walker. But Iasmin is also the youngest female fighter on the UFC roster at 21 years of age, which obviously shows she has a huge upside here. She has a fight coming up against Karolina Kowalkiewicz and at UFC 301. And if she wins that, I think she could actually move into the ceiling as high. But for now, I think a sneaky hold is a good place for her. But, man, it's looking good. I'll say that.
And, she's a knockout artist. That's where most of her wins come from. The youth thing, we talk about, there's a lot of these guys in here who are in their 30s who might not have a big window left. But, somebody like Lucindo here, you can get on her early.
Next up, John. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
X gonna give it to you.
Malcom Gordon, been in the UFC since 2022, John, and he's 2-5 in that time. All 5 losses are finishes. Now he's currently riding a 3-fight losing streak. He's 33 years old. Not who you're looking for at all in terms of a hobby or a collectability. And again, I really wonder kind of why Topps put him in here. Kind of feel bad for the guy, but again, when you're talking the age and to try to overcome a deficit like that in your career, that's going to be tough.
Well, and you talk about the 2022 thing. A lot of these people did make their debut in 2023, but then you have other people who didn't make it. He makes it. Probably a loss away from getting cut and putting him in the same position.
I thought I texted you. I thought he was.
I double triple checked.
Yeah, I'm like, dude,
sure.
dude, is he really? Yeah, because I'm like, man, I don't know how he's still in it. But he's a 25er.
He's a 25er. He's from London. Yeah. So you kind of leave some fighters available for when they do these kind of cross the world cards. So
next up, Gabriel Miranda. Miranda, another interesting one. Only had 2 fights in the UFC, and he is 1-1. He lost his debut, but he took it on about a 1-month notice, and he fought Benoit Saint-Denis at lightweight.
Caught a war.
Yeah, so no shame there, especially for your debut fight. So where I am with Miranda, who is 1-1, especially given the circumstances, the fact that he lost the one to Benoit Saint-Denis helps him a little bit. I think you just don't know. I think it's just too early to tell.
He's 34, so he doesn't have a huge window left to be 1-1 in the UFC.
Next up, Monsterat Conejo. Man, this is a tough one. Looked really promising in her debut, came in with a good record, but she has lost 3 straight with 3 straight finishes. I don't want to be as harsh as saying I don't know why she's in here, but man, if you're pulling a big Conejo card, you better pray someone PCs that thing, because I don't know what else.
That's where I would be. I think I give her a little bit of leeway because her first fight was short notice, and then her last opponent came in heavy. So those two situations make it tough. She has 110K followers on Instagram.
She's popular.
And one of the things I did is if they had like an interesting person follow her, I did it. Schoolboy Q randomly follows her. Like who knows?
So there you go.
Happens?
So she probably does have maybe some value out there in terms of somebody will be wanting a Conejo card for their PC. So perfect spot for her, I think. Next up, John, is a really interesting one in Natalia Silva, Nat Silva. So you were telling me on the checklist, Nat, her actual cards don't have the RC, but she has a rookie card signature.
She has a redemption for a rookie autograph.
Rookie auto.
So
we went ahead and added her to this, but regardless, because I think it will still be her first year, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying to the moon.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, she's 5-0 right now in the UFC. Just beat Viviane Ujo, who super, super tough. And I really think the upside there for Silva is high.
Yeah, I don't know how many women flyweights have 5 wins in a row in the UFC right now. So
next up, we have Shayilan Nurdanbieke. The crazy thing is he's had over 50 fights and he's only 29 years of age. So I kind of see that as a good thing. You know, the UFC run has just been okay. He's 3-2 in the UFC right now. But I think for Shayilan, probably it's too early to tell. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you got to string in some.
He does have the winning record.
Right. You got string together some wins, get a name and
losses don't suck either.
And a win over the name. I think that's what the difference between like somebody you can hold and somebody who might be too early to tell. For me, one of the things might be like when you have fought the guys who are up to those levels, if you can't get past them, maybe you're still got a little bit more to do. So I'm okay with putting them there.
Next up, we have Ode Osborne. John does have a losing record inside the UFC right now, 4-5, unfortunately. With the 2 losses straight, I think you're kind of hoping somebody PCs Ode now. I mean, he is a 125er again, kind of like heavyweight, like we've been saying. You do see those guys get a little bit more chance because they just don't have as many fighters for those divisions. He has a podcast that's pretty popular as well.
YouTube as well.
YouTube,
TikTok,
he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
So I think there is some collectability there. Somebody will want your Ode Osborne cards, I can promise you.
And being from Jamaica
helps. Yeah, absolutely. Next up, Fernando Padilla. And this is a guy that I've been pretty high on. And I'm just going to put him, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think he's a sneaky hold right now. Could be the ceiling looks high. I don't want to go quite there. He's 3-1 right now in the UFC, coming off a win. His one loss was to Kyle Nelson, who's a vet. You know, no shame in that. Tough veteran at that.
Like a gargoyle, dude.
Yeah,
they were banging.
Yeah, so I think Fernando Padilla is just kind of an early hold or a sneaky hold there. Next up is Jonny Parsons, the slug or not, baby.
You ready to slug or not?
Yeah,
'cause I'm the slug or not.
My only thing with Jonny is I just wish we had a bigger sample size of Parsons. You know, he's only had one fight in the UFC outside of his Dana White Contender Series fight. But he's a lot of fun. You know, he's got the sweet mullet, right? Which, again, I think, along with his fighting style, could endure him to a large portion of the fans. He's got 9 wins, 7 are by knockout. Yeah. Not so sure that the ceiling is, high yet. I think he could be a sneaky hold. I think at least he's too early to tell, but I would think somewhere between sneaky hold and too early to tell. What do you think?
I would go sneaky hold, and I think he's one of the what's the term I want to look for? He's one of the enigmas in this where it's I'm not saying that because I think he's going to go on this crazy run.
Yeah.
But I do think that
he's going to have some fans.
There's going to be a lot of people who look at him and say, I like that.
I want to be, I want to collect that guy. Couldn't agree more. Oh boy, John, we're back in the basement here. Parker Porter, don't even have to ask. Why are you in here? This is another guy, just like Jamie Pickett, has been cut from the UFC. I think last December he got cut. Topps, we need that buyback, man. I mean, just again, like Pickett, imagine somebody out there is going to pull a Parker Porter 1-of-1 or something. That hurts, man. Yeah,
no, I mean, the dude's lost to both Tafas, lost to other guys, like Chris Dawkins, who's not even in the UFC.
Yeah.
Either way, when you see heavyweight and you see RC, sorry.
Yeah. That's a good point. Honestly, that is a
There's
great
nothing
point.
good coming up from pulling heavyweight RC.
That's a good point. Next up is Josh Quinlan. And Josh. I'll be honest, I'm not sure of the upside of Josh here. He's just 6-2, which is pretty unexperienced to be in the UFC to begin with. And that's 6-2 in his career, not in the UFC. But he's 31 years of age, currently 1-2 in the UFC, and on a 2-fight losing streak at that. Granted, he's faced some other tougher prospects. The problem for Josh is I just don't think he's a guy who's ever made enough impression to even have people that'll want to PC him, if I'm being honest. So it seems a bit harsh to put him at the bottom being so new to the UFC, but man, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because when you look at Junior Tafa, similar UFC records, but he doesn't have the same additional appeal that Tafa has with his fighting style or who he's attached to, those type of things. So yeah,
it feels so harsh.
Hate it had to be you, to be honest.
It feels so harsh.
Hopefully you prove us wrong. Go on a streak and we move you up, but
yeah, it's just I feel bad doing that to Quinlan, because to be 1-2 in the UFC and but again, if you have a losing record, why are you in this set, and Topps, get a hold of us. If you get in tune with what people want and who really is legitimate, that bottom row shouldn't even exist.
Yeah, no, if you're doing the poll on somewhere and hey, who do you want to be in this set?
And the tops, like the ceiling looks high. Maybe not to the moon is a tough category to get into, but the next two categories, like if we were in control of this, would be way more full.
Yeah.
We were talking before this of all the people that should have been in this checklist over some of these fighters. So I don't understand their logic, but I do understand why they put this guy in there. Shara Bullet, the last pirate, Shara Magomedov, and John, we're going on a trip.
Bing. Oh no.
Which one does he deserve? What do you think?
I would say in the middle.
Okay. I don't disagree. Lopes, the
you got to beat a name, man.
Shara Bullet, this is the guy, again, if you pull anything with him. And I mean, like, these top three, like, I would keep their base, too. Maybe not Nat as much because, again, it's not going to be, like, the true rookie stuff. But, even, like, rookie refractors here are going to be important.
Let me ask you this. How many followers do you think he has on Instagram?
250K.
530.
Wow.
And of those followers,
That's
Dana
crazy.
White's personal, which nobody else on this list has that, and
That's
Joe
crazy.
Rogan follow him.
Well, there you go. That's why he is to the moon.
One thing we didn't talk about with some of these other people, but sometimes you get to people who don't speak English and don't have necessarily the mic. He has decent English. He does trash talk. Like, he has like all the makings of like, and he has this like scary looking mystique. Like, he looks like a villain for sure. So I just think that on top of everything else, he's not missing anywhere on the.
Yeah. Next up is Themba Gorimbo. Themba's an interesting one. I'm sure many of you probably saw the video of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, gifting Themba a new home. He has an incredible story, so I'd encourage you to go watch that video if you've never seen it. But having the backing of The Rock does not suck in terms of star power, and then, from the hobby standpoint of collectability, he is 2-1 in the UFC. He is also 33 years old, which is a bit older to be starting your UFC career. So I'm not quite sure what the ceiling is yet for Themba. I think he's probably either sneaky to hold or it's too early to tell. And maybe he'll come good. But, I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, I don't know. He's got the experience. He's got the age. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's another one that's interesting because, I mean, even like when you talk about his story, and I'm guessing it's because of the Rock effect, he has 372,000 followers on Instagram. So that he has the eyes. Yeah,
that doesn't suck. So maybe he's a sneaky.
That's where I would lean. Because when you see, especially when you see that last fight, like he gets a couple more on top of having all those eyes already.
Well, and then once The Rock starts showing up, if he starts getting in big fights, The Rock sitting cage
walking
side,
them out or something in his corner.
Absolutely.
We've seen that happen.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Oh, John,
these last two are a tale of two cities.
Yeah,
huh?
We are back in the basement with Val Woodburn, and it's pretty simple. Why are you in here for old Val? We almost jokingly made a category at the bottom, and it was going to be called "You're only in here because you fought Bo Nickel," and it was going to be Jamie Pickett and Val Woodburn.
Yeah,
Val, at least when he came in with Bo, had a crazy highlight tape full of knockouts. Yeah, undefeated. Yeah. Did kind of catch Bo a little bit at the end, but then just got starched. He just lost his last fight, so he's now 0-2 in the UFC. Again, when you talk about the timing that these were made, you would think the only fight that Val had at the time would have been the one Bo fight, and he lost it. So why would he end up here and here? Maybe because they thought he was going to be a name having fought Bo. I don't know. But it does absolutely nothing for the hobby. Last one, but certainly not least, as John mentioned, Wiliam Gomis, 3-0 in the UFC. I just don't think, for me personally, I've seen anything to get me overly excited. But anytime you start your UFC career 3-0, that's impressive. So who knows? Maybe he's kind of one for the future. But right now, I think that is maybe about where I see him. Maybe just a sneaky hold for right now.
Yeah, I would say that. I think that he definitely has ceiling high potential. He is on UFC 301, which is another, you tell he's one of those guys that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And kind of like he has like 42,000 IG followers, but the interesting one, and it's random, is Royce to 5'9" follows him. So
That is really random.
And he has the nickname Jaguar, so I always like that.
So there it is. That is our true rookies. Again, Nat Silva only having the true rookie redemption auto, so that's why she made the list. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in those last couple that we told you that aren't true rookies, but we do think that you guys should know about because this will be their first year card. So again, they're not going to have that RC on them. Why Topps didn't do that for some of these couple here that we're going to introduce in, I have no idea. Kind of crazy to me, but we'll add them in, right? Alrighty, here they are, John. The couple first year, so to speak, cards that we thought you should know about, because even though they don't have RC on them, this is the first card for these fighters, so I think there will be the collectability of technically being their rookie card.
Right, and for the people who, might be getting cards and trying to sell them, like for eBay purposes, first year is just as good as rookie, because you're not going to be able to find a card with rookie on it. So, and even for your collection, like knowing that these when you pull these people, you're not going to be able to find their first card because this is it. So just something to keep in mind.
We will start out with Vanessa Demopolus. So I think kind of what's tough for Vanessa right now is she does have a winning record in the UFC, but when you look at her losses, it's against the ladies that are kind of in that next tier. But on the other hand with Vanessa is the collectability for Vanessa is going to be really high. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
And I'll let you guys do your research, I guess, kind of on why Vanessa will be really collectible. I don't want to get into this video. So I think the collectability, like in terms of a PC, somebody is definitely going to have a PC. But you know what, man? Like looking at her fighting, I actually think she's more of it's too early to tell. Because I think the PC value 1,000% is there. Like that, we don't have to worry about. The only thing is we just need to see her beat one of these ladies like of a little bit of a higher caliber. Next up, we are going to look at Carlston Harris. I actually think Carlston Harris can be kind of a sneaky hold here. He's 4-1 in the UFC. His only loss is to Shavkat Rakhmonov, who probably
join the party.
Yeah, would definitely, in terms of rookie, like Shavkat would have been to the moon his rookie year, right? Like big name fighter, gonna fight for a title here soon, probably. Carlston Harris has also beat a guy named Impa Kasanganay, who right now is the PFL's 205 champ. Just beat Jeremiah Wells. I think the upside looks pretty good. I don't know if I would go as far as to say the ceiling looks high yet, but I think he's a sneaky hold for now.
I think he's one good win away from being a ceiling high. So I think hold's a good one for him.
Next up, John, we have Ariane Lipski. Kind of a bit of a mixed run in the UFC, but I think the main reason I wanted to highlight her and put her in here is her last three. She's currently won 3 straight, beat Casey O'Neill, which is a big win. I'm okay with putting her for right now, and maybe it's too early to tell given kind of that mixed run of form, but definitely trending up.
I agree. I think that too early to tell is there. She gets another big win like everybody else in that middle. You're one win away from moving up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Next one, John, Manuel Torres. And you know what? We're going to throw another one right here, I think. I think the ceiling is looking high for Manuel Torres. Hasn't lost in the UFC. This is maybe a little bit of a bullish one here, maybe a bit risky, but I think the ceiling actually looks really high for Manuel Torres, and that's why, again, when you're talking about the fact that most people might see his cards and not realize that because it doesn't have that RC that this is his first year, and that's what why don't you throw the RC on a guy like Manuel Torres? That sucks that he may never have a rookie card because I think he's a guy that we all need to be looking out for.
Yeah, has some of the traits that everybody else or some of the other guys on here. Has Mexico behind him. He's a finisher. He's well-rounded. Like there's not really any holes that you look like, oh man, I don't know if he's there yet. He looks like he's getting matched up with better people away from being seen on that level.
Next up, Nick Dalby. And the reason we threw Nick in here is he's currently on this is again first year card, which is kind of crazy because he's almost 40 years old. But his first time in any, obviously Prism was the old one. But Nick is on a 4-fight win streak right now. Just got a big win over Gabriel Bonfim.
Knockout.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of like his collectability, who knows? I'm going to say I think there could be a sneaky hold there. At 39, he does seem to be, getting better. I think at worst for a guy like Nick Dalby, you're talking somebody will probably definitely PC him. But the way that he's going, man, could be a kind of sneaky hold there.
Yeah.
Or do you think in terms of the hobby, it's maybe just too early to tell what his collectability is?
You know what? I would be okay with too early to tell, only because I think he needs another another name win to kind of put him on people's radar when it comes to collectability.
But Gabriel Bonfim is like a lot of like winning a fight.
Yeah, I think
like
he should have been in this set. Him and his brother both could have easily been in it.
And last but not least, John, I don't know why that says Cody Simon. It's Cameron. I have no idea why I put Cody on there. But Cameron Simon, this is a kid, man. He was like, what, 9-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's now lost 2 straight in the UFC. So he is 2-2 in the UFC, but he's only like 23, 22. But super fun fighter. I mean, even in his last one, you know, he lost to Peyton Talbot, who's somebody that should have probably been in here. But man, his fighting style and stuff is going to make him super fun. I think at a worst right now with him, you're definitely going to have people that are going to PC a kid like this. I think it's kind of too early to tell. Again, 2-2, but he's so young and the upside and the potential is there for him. Another guy, when you're talking about, you know, having a whole country of South America or South Africa behind him, that's really big as well. So I think too early to tell is a good place for him.
Yeah, and we talk about when you can tie yourself up to somebody else who's popular with DDP, you know, it kind of gives them a boost. And the age thing. To be that age, to have that record, he still has plenty of time. I think too early to tell is perfect for him.
Alrighty, that's it, guys. I hope that this kind of helps you, you know, if you're looking to get into the UFC hobby, or maybe you've opened some, or you're just a little not unsure of some of these fighters. I hope that this helps. If you have any more questions, because there is more first years, these were just kind of the people that we thought that, you know, we should highlight. As far as the rookies, though, the ones that are going to have your RC cards, they're all covered. So if you do have any questions about any other fighters, whatever, always feel free to reach out to us. You can follow us on Instagram at Neon Belly Podcast. We'd love to talk cards with you, talk the hobby. Let us know down in the comments if you think we got any of these wrong, if you would move a fighter up or down in terms of value. Also, if you want us to do more tier lists in the future, let us know down in the comments. It doesn't have to be card related. Like I said, could literally be for anything, as long as it's UFC or mixed martial arts related. But until the next one, we'll see you guys later. Peace.